And we're back for part 3 of the Lord of the Rings series. Lord of the Rings. So, if you haven't seen the books or the movies, check out the links in the description.
Or the previous 2 videos where we're talking about the differences between mediums.
Watch those too.
Got the audiobooks, which are basically the books, and the movies.
Mm-hmm. And we're comparing the differences. We've talked about character traits and personalities and different things. Now we're going to talk about some more things.
Yeah. One of the big differences between mediums that's really handy because you just play to the medium is Frodo gets the ring and he leaves the Shire instantly.
Yeah. Leaves right away, starts the story off. You don't have to stay around 60 years pondering the story. Just go up.
Yeah, the pacing accommodates the medium, especially when it's like a remix of something, like it's a remake of the books, and most people will say, yeah, okay, Lord of the Rings, gets the ring and goes or whatever. And yeah, it accommodates the medium. If you have just writing, you can say 60 years pass on screen. You just skip it. Go with the intensity. It's like, oh, this the ring is a big deal. It's been around here forever with Bilbo. We don't need to show that again. And yeah.
Ring in the Shire, not in the Shire.
Adventure spins. Yeah, that's a neat little one.
Related to that is when Frodo gets the ring, even when Gandalf, for the first time, is going to reach towards the river, he's looking at it, the big eye flashes up, right? And that eye actually is not seen for quite a while in the books. I forget exactly when, but it's a long time before he sees the eye. And there's all this other kind of visually stuff and whatever described in the books that's, emphasizing the darkness and stuff approaching. But it's not for a long time that you finally see that eye. And in the movie, it makes sense for them just to use it right away and just like, this is the symbol of evil.
Yeah, this is a personification of all the bad stuff.
Yeah. You don't need to, and it emphasizes like if that's the thing, Gandalf sees it right away, and then it's like, oh, he knows, like this is evil. But if it's just like some ghostly stuff or whatever, it trickles in. It's like, well,
the characters could state or think on screen, oh, I feel this essence and I know what it is. But instead, just show the image, and the audience feels that visceral is right there too. You don't have to have the characters thinking about it,
and it stays with that single image for pretty much the entire thing. So it's consistent in its personification of evil.
Yeah. If you were to make the movies first, you would do it, and then if you wrote the books, you could skip out on describing the eye for a while and just like build up to it. It's a cool way of using the mediums properly.
So in the Lord of the Rings, there's the I don't even know the name of the sword. Or what's the name of the sword?
The sword, the broken one.
The broken sword that Aragorn has, and it's broken at the start of the movie, and then there's talk about it being fixed or whatever, and then it's finally fixed for the Return of the King, and he gets it from Elrond, and he becomes a king.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Return of the King is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And
one of the things in the movie is they have that kind of story arc going on. In the book, it's fixed.
Yeah. He has it from the start. Aragorn has the sword from the start, and he uses it. Pretty much everything stays the same in the sense. He's just got it the whole time, And there's some moments where he's like about to enter Rohan, and he's like, no, this is my sword, and like I can only have it, and if you touch that, you're like as good as dead, and kind of thing, and like there's some added like character to that kind of stuff, which I guess emphasizes him being the king, kind of from the start of that kind of sincerity. But it's like in the book, there's also a lot more internal conflict about him, as we discussed in the other video, not knowing what's going on, really like kind of wanting Gandalf to be there when he's not, and it's the written thoughts about Aragorn and what he's thinking, and he's expressing to himself that he is kind of not sure. And in the movie that doesn't really get across because it's not internally expressed. It's more externally expressed by the sword being broken and then it being repaired and him having to take up the role of being the king.
Yeah, when you see him or like a broken sword, you know what that symbolizes, and like that whole part. And they were able to gravitate all of that internal conflict from being this kind of split off thing of like, I don't know if I want to be a king. Where's Gandalf? I don't know if I can lead these kids. Like all this stuff that he's going through, and he's streamlined that internal conflict into, I don't want to be king, or I don't know if I should, etc. Like it's very, you get the point. You get the thing he's going through, and like that's his big internal thing. There's this whole Mordor and the Ring and Sauron and all this, and then there's his internal conflict. You get it just by looking at the broken sword. You don't need like all this weird monologuing about.
And it's also like, you know, it I guess is just the symbol of like, when is he ready to be the king?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the sword fixed, you know.
Yeah.
He can't be the king until the sword is fixed. So, another.
On that note, the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen actually carried a sword around him the whole time because it was just in Aragorn's character. So even though the sword was broken the whole time, and like in the book, he actually carried that sword around. Even though it wasn't the right sword, he still carried a sword.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting to know that as the actor, he felt it emphasized his ability to stay in character and to be the Aragorn by carrying a sword around with him the whole time. And always kind of polishing it and finding, you know, designing his suit and saying like, oh, I need somewhere, say in my sword, or like my sword has to have a knife pocket, so because I'll be, you know, traveling around and killing animals, and like, you know, that's a practical thing, and I need a stone to polish my sword as I'm going to have it all the time, and things like that. You know, that just really add to the behind the scenes of what creates an awesome movie.
And then the symbol is still there with the broken sword. So even if it's like, you know, that being in character might throw off the way, Aragorn is, you know, having the sword the whole time represents he is ready to be king. It's like, no, there's another one. The important one is broken. So yeah, you can still keep that in mind as you're playing that character.
He's always been ready to be a really awesome Night Ranger, though. Forest Ranger.
So yeah, those are some neat little differences between mediums, and we appreciate most of them for what they are, because they're perfectly done in the different directions.
Mm-hmm. See you next time.